Marry My Husband is actually the perfect rebound drama after Perfect Marriage Revenge. Hi, you're watching the Drama Notes with Parma. I was kind of underwhelmed by the trailer when it dropped because Perfect Marriage Revenge, I think, had just stopped airing at that point, and this, like the summary of it, the premise looked so similar. I was a bit startled. Now, this does happen sometimes in Dramaland. Like, remember when Again My Life dropped, and then I think 6 months later, Reborn Rich, and the premises were eerily similar. But of course, the story treatment and the overall journey the protagonists go through were treated quite differently. They were clearly original takes. Just sharing a similar genre. Perfect Marriage Revenge and Marry My Husband also fall in the same dying and going back in time and reliving your life subgenre trope. It's its own thing right now. It's no longer like an original concept, except that the protagonists are female and focuses more on the domestic and personal instead of corporate takeover. I mean, there are corporate shenanigans in the background, but the primary goal is to improve their overall life with a second chance that they have. Anyway, so episode one of Marry My Husband dropped, and I watched it on a whim because I hadn't really caught a really good Park Min Young drama in a while, and I loved it so much. I went and finished the entire webtoon in one single day before episode two dropped, and that's why I'm making a video about it because I want to talk about this drama before I don't know it gets any deeper into its airing schedule and messes up the things that I like about it. So, Marry My Husband was originally written by Sang Soo-jak as a web novel. Eventually, it was adapted into the webtoon format for the webtoon platform by Studio Lico, which was wildly popular in early 2023. And it's unsurprising then that it got adapted into a drama because just like Perfect Marriage Revenge, the plot, the way the scenes play out, the dynamic between the characters, all of these are very much light mahjong. Like it has all of those elements where the story involves rich families, but also like a poor orphaned heroine who's abused by her husband and mother-in-law and then gets a second chance to go back in life and correct the wrongs done to her. Like if you think back in time, we had seen mahjong as in like melodramatic dramas like this where women have second chances. Like in the 90s you had this recurring motif of women like quote unquote dying and then going and getting plastic surgeries and coming back and then getting revenge for all of the wrongs done to them,
ज्योति
ज्योति नहीं आरती
which honestly I loved it. Even as a kid, I would watch those things and be like, yes, this is what fantasies are made of. Because these were very domestic fantasies of the wrongs that you see happening to, women around you day in and day out. And the idea that those wrongs can be set right by those women, just, empowered in magical ways. Like they suddenly have somebody who's supporting them with a lot of money, or they suddenly hit rich somehow. Like basically they suddenly had power that they didn't have before, and they could finally get the justice that in ordinary life would be pretty impossible to get because dynamics are pretty set and most people aren't about to get a second chance in life or suddenly get plastic surgery and come back and wreak havoc on your abusive family. So, this new way of doing that very old trope of a woman who's been abused getting justice finally, it just hits the same spot, but it does in a fresh, sparkly new way. And time travel, as you would know if you have watched this video, is a subject that I am like really really passionate about. I watch a lot of time traveling drama and I will happily watch one that uses the concept to get women justice. And of course also they find the true loves of their life who are willing to devote their second chance in life entirely to the woman's revenge because that's how much they love them, and that is what fantasies are made of, guys. Okay, so back to Marry My Husband. I really enjoyed the first two episodes. Honestly, I enjoyed the first two episodes of this drama almost more than Perfect Marriage Revenge, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the writing quality here is higher, because I have noted that in Marrying My Husband, we already have instances where the dialogues are a bit labored. They state the obvious a bit too much. The characters themselves haven't been fleshed out very well just yet. However, what I will give them points for, having finished reading 58 chapters of the webtoon in one day, they've actually done a really good job of adapting the original source material into drama format without it being an exact copy. Like, the sequences are more or less the same, but the scenes are different. They're sticking to the spirit of things without exactly copying the dynamics and the dialogues, which I like. For instance, Park Min-young's character Ji-won, when she travels back in time after being killed by her husband and bestie who are having an affair, she wakes up really disoriented. She lashes out at her future husband at this point, because she's gone back 10 years in time, because they're in the office space and he is speaking to her the way he would in a perfectly normal way, but she just was murdered by the guy, so her reaction is violent. It's she's falling over herself, nearly getting burned from a boiling kettle, bumping into things, tripping over her own feet. She's just horribly disoriented and she's angry and she's like, I just died, how am I alive? Like, that whole sequence was done really well. In the webtoon, however, it's really passive. Like, she goes back in time, she wakes up from a nap in the office space where she's woken up by a friendly colleague, and then her then boyfriend comes towards her, Minhwa, and she's like, wait, he just killed me. But her reaction is just to walk past him without engaging. But then also, rewind a bit, the moment when she confronts her husband and her bestie about, the affair that they're having, and they're basically telling her that, hey, you're going to be dying anyway. You had like 6 months after your cancer diagnosis. So, what does it matter? The living must go on. Why are you being so selfish? The same beats as the webtoon plays out in the drama, except the drama really spells things out. You would understand that if you watch the scene, and it's fine, it's perfectly fine, but I'm just saying there is like a slight bit of clunkiness in some of the dialogue writing, which I'm hoping will smooth out as the story goes on, because the original story, let me tell you guys, is a bonkers. It's the mukjunkiest mukjunk to ever mahjong. It's mellow light, but also so much happens and everything is over the top, and it's basically, just like a grade higher than constant kimchi slaps. And it's fun is what I'm saying. It's really turn your brain off type of fun. Does that mean I'm not going to analyze this drama? No, of course I will. But I love analyzing dramas like these, because this is the kind of fantasy that you can interpret in so many different ways. The good thing, of course, is Marrying My Husband seems to have like a better grasp on certain elements that they will inevitably use in the drama, but they also call themselves out, or at least point out that these elements are problematic within the story. And it's not lampshading. They're not just pointing it out so that nobody else can point it out. It's more a case of they're aware it's problematic, but they also seem to think that it should be part of the storytelling for obvious reasons. And a good example of that, it happens in episode 2, where Ji-won realizes that all of the tragedies of her life can be shifted onto somebody else. It will happen. Those things inevitably will. But if she can make sure to avoid them, they will happen to somebody else. And so she figures she can make it happen to her nemesis, which is Sumin, her fake best friend, the one who has been a parasitic entity in her life since her childhood, the one who she thought was the closest to her, but has always been the reason other people couldn't get close to her, or that other people hated her. She got bullied in school because of this girl. So having figured out what Sumin's place in her life has done to her life, she decided, hey, you like my future husband so much, why don't you marry him, and therefore marry my husband. So she pretends to be okay with her boyfriend Minhwan. As in, initially she tries to break up with him, and that doesn't go too well. But then she realizes, I don't think I can just get out of this normally. Because it turns out that her shitty husband in the future also was a pretty shitty boyfriend and not the kind of guy who would just let her break up without being violent about it. So she makes a plan that will let her be financially secure enough to get away from him and also push him towards somebody else so he's no longer obsessing over her. So we are in a situation where she doesn't want intimacy, but her partner does. So you have this sequence where he's trying to kiss her in sort of like an office storeroom, and she is almost readying herself to like grab something and hit him to stop him from kissing her. Her reaction is that negative towards this experience. And that's when a colleague walks in. And so he kind of just like, grabs a roll of toilet paper and walks off. And so the colleague, while the two of them are walking out, says to her, I may be overstepping my boundaries, but forced physical touch, even between partners, is bad.
원하지 않는 스킨십을 강요하는 건 안 좋아.
And tells her that she herself, when she was younger, had made the mistake of allowing such physical intimacy that she didn't want, and she doesn't want Ji-won to repeat her mistakes. I like this. I like that they had a situation and they had somebody who's clearly a positive character, who's smart and wise and a potential ally for our heroine, point out the problem with the scene. Because at the end of episode 2, you have a situation where Ji-won is trying to hook Minhwa up with Sumin, and Sumin doesn't turn up. So Minhwa thinks it's supposed to be a night where, the two of them get intimate. So he's there all like raring to go, and Jiwon's reaction to the whole thing is really, really, really negative. They do it to a point where it's a bit unbelievable, because this woman has been married to this guy for over 10 years, then traveled back in time, and even at this point they've clearly been sexually active together for a while. So when he takes all of his clothes off, she shrieks like she's never seen a naked man, and that just seems unlikely. But anyway, it's a drama. And it's one of those, flaws in writing / directing that kind of takes you out of the story, because her reaction could have been anything. Could have been like just gritting her teeth and like looking away, or just like showing disgust, without her acting like a scared virgin. If we look at the scene as a whole, this is a situation where, again, Jiwon can't just walk away without arousing his suspicion that their relationship is not normal. However, it's also a situation where she does not want to be intimate with her partner in a relationship, a situation that a lot of women and men can probably relate to, like where saying no doesn't feel like a valid option, but you really don't want to go through with it. So you have a very serious situation. You have a very ridiculous man and a very, over the top directing of the scene, but the situation remains serious. So I was, I suppose, appreciative that they did the call out earlier on in the episode, because if they hadn't done that, and, the drama had used the same concept of the boyfriend wanting to get intimate with his then girlfriend, while she doesn't want that intimacy twice in the same episode, I would not have taken that so well. I honestly didn't take the ending of episode 2 very well anyway, but at least I cannot criticize them overly for not knowing what they were doing. It seemed like they knew what they were doing. Also, like from a drama viewer perspective, I understand why the scene was included. Aside from the fact that, of course, Min Hwan, the kind of guy he is, he would expect to be intimate with his partner, regardless of how she's feeling about it that day. The drama has already shown us a scene where initially Ji-won, when she came back in time, she immediately tries to break up with her boyfriend. And he doesn't just not take it well, he gets violent about it, which is actually more nuance in the drama than we got in the webtoon, because you realize why this woman couldn't just dump this guy and move away, even though he had been actively using her, including making her very financially vulnerable. She doesn't have family, she doesn't have friends. It's a really precarious situation for her. So she needs to pretend that everything is okay. So, on top of already not feeling like she can say no to a partner who gets violent and gets really scummy, she's also in a situation where she has to keep pretending that everything is normal as it was back in 2013. So I understand why the scene was included. Let's see how they resolve it next week. Now, back to the time travel. One of the best things this drama did, I think, as well as the webtoon, was immediately establish stakes. So you go back in time and you start changing things because you know that there are certain things that would happen. It's small things like getting burned by a kettle of water or tripping against like something hard. So knowing that those things are going to happen in your future, you would try to avoid them, right? In the drama, if Jiwon successfully avoids a misfortune, she finds that it inevitably happens to somebody else. Maybe it even happens to her, but at a future point. The gist of it is that no matter what, this misfortune will fall on somebody. So Jiwon figures out that she needs somebody to steal her misfortunes. Or, in other words, she needs to steal somebody else's good luck. This is why Jiwon comes up with the idea that she would steal Sumin's fate while she would have Sumin basically steal her misfortune and marry her husband and lead the horrible life over the next 10 years that originally Jiwon had led. Now, this is where the story kind of gets dark, even though they don't really dwell upon it too much. The end of Jiwon's life is not just being murdered by her husband and her best friend, but her body ravaged by cancer with like very little time left to live. Even if she hadn't been murdered, she would have died from a fatal illness, which, by the way, this particular illness is a trigger for me because of family related reasons, and it was one of the reasons I was not very enthusiastic about going into this drama to begin with. Like, I guess I was still okay with the way the drama did it because they didn't dwell too much on it. They just stuck to the practicalities of things and not the tragedy of it too much, which made it digestible enough for me that I could watch it. Because also they move on from it really quickly. But if they had dwelled on it too much, it would have been really hard for me. So yeah, just an insert for, yeah, you didn't need to know that. But anyway, going back to what we were saying, she's not just trying to shift her fate of living 10 horrible years with an incredibly mean mother-in-law, a generally negligent father-in-law, and an absolute bastard of a husband onto Shuman. She is also shifting, in her mind, that fatal ending. Not just the one where she's murdered, but where she gets cancer. So in the webtoon, when Somin finally does get married to Minwan, and you have Jiwon attending the wedding, Jiwon, they give cash gifts. So Jiwon gives like quite a substantial cash gift. And in her head, while she is like putting that in the, box at the reception and stuff, she says, this is for your cancer treatment, even though Minhwan might actually spend it long before you ever get to that point. She clearly knew what she was sending her erstwhile friend off to was a death sentence. And I am not judging her. I'm just saying that's dark. And also, what a moral quandary. I don't expect the drama to dwell any more on this than the webtoon did. I just find this fascinating from a philosophy point of view. Like, technically, whenever we think of wars or, just vengeance between individuals, the idea always is it's better I kill them before they kill me. The idea is always that your enemy is trying to harm you, so it's okay to harm your enemy. The same theory technically applies here, where, Sumin will in the future do terrible harm to Jiwon. And Jiwon has figured that it's the horrible 10 years she lives with this family. And they're the kind of family who, even when she is diagnosed with cancer, don't really give her the money to get treated, don't really pay any attention to her, discourage her from going visiting the doctor, and don't pay her fees when she is in the hospice. So in her head, she's like, I might have survived. I may never have actually gotten the illness if I hadn't married into this family and if I hadn't had a terrible friend like this. So in her head, she is giving her entire dark fate over to Sumin. And sitting at 2013, Sumin hasn't yet done the things that she will over the 10 years. So this is one of those, do you kill Hitler when he's a baby type of concept, you know? Like, you are sending your friend who as yet hasn't done those terrible things off to a fate that you know is going to have like a tragic fatal ending. It's just dark, that's all I'm saying. I find it interesting more than anything else, honestly. And finally, now before we wrap up, I want to talk about our male lead, Yoo Ji-hyuk. So Ji-hyuk, played by Nainu, is an interesting character to me. I liked him from the very first episode. He seemed like this awkward, overly serious, stiff boss, which is a nice departure from the usual, flashy chaebol bosses that we get. But mostly what I want to say is that it's interesting that they paired G1, even G1 in 2013, who was, a bit awkward, a bit gangly, a bit unsure about her appearance or how to dress herself, with this guy who is also who feels awkward and gangly, and he thinks he's a boring person, and doesn't really see his own charm. But he is very hardworking and very earnest, and he's especially earnest towards Jiwon. The moment we are introduced to Ji-hyuk is when Jiwon goes back into 2013, her early 30s body, and she is in her office completely disoriented, and it's Ji-hyuk who's constantly saving her. Now, usually I would get a little annoyed if the male lead is saving the female lead like 10 times within a 5-minute span of time. But in this case, you kind of understand. You understand why she's so disoriented. You understand why she's constantly falling over herself and nearly, getting killed numerous times. It's a lot. There is a lot that just happened. She was horribly sick. She's gone back into her healthy body. She's also time traveled, which is a concept that's really hard to wrap your head around. So it's perfectly understandable that in that initial meeting, she is bumbling and needs saving numerous times in that first scene. Nainu, I think, is well cast in that he gets the look right. He also gets the stiffness of the character right. I have already heard some complaints from webtoon readers about his casting. I don't know. Give it a chance. I think it'll work. I'm not going to say any more about this and that. I just really love that Park Min-young, after a very long time, has taken up a character where she gets to be a little awkward and a little weird because this is her second life and she's decided to change things up. She's behaving out of character. She's also behaving that way because she has future knowledge. So dynamics that she didn't know about back in that time, she now knows how they are going to play out in the future. She now knows that a project that was dismissed at this point of time is actually going to be successful a few years later. So working with future knowledge means that she can be confident about certain things that she wouldn't have been confident in the original timeline. But that also means that Ji-won, as a character who's used to isolating herself and not really talking to people much and not really confidently putting herself forward much, when she's doing these things, it comes out a little awkward. It comes out, it's not smooth, it's not slick. And Park Min-young, I have always held, has excellent physical humor. Like her mastery of being able to take a funny scene and make it even funnier is incredible. I just don't think she gets enough of those scenes. Maybe because she's so beautiful and she does all of these romance dramas, they just don't give her enough space to really flex those muscles, those comedic muscles. And the way she does it in Marry My Husband is that she is just an oddball, and that's fantastic. Right now, in the first couple of episodes, she is also dressed down to be sort of an every woman, but also a bit dowdy. Like, it's Park Min Young, she can't be dowdy. It just putting specs on her and making her wear like washed out colors does not make her dowdy. However, she's about to get like a glow up in the next episodes. I am not like super fond of that idea because I like that she is at least trying to play an every woman at this point. It also gives her that space to be a little weird, which I think really makes her character stand out. Undeniably, one of the best things about Perfect Marriage Revenge was its female lead, Haniju, played by Jang Yoo-min. I just really think that Ji-won can be played exceptionally by Park Min-young if she just doesn't fall into the trap of being like too perfect again, because she can do humor so well, and I just want her to really lean into that in the upcoming episodes. If the drama sticks to the webtoon storyline, then Inu, which is Ji-hyuk, is also going to get a glow up pretty soon in a few episodes. So he'll shed his specs and have like a nicer hairstyle and probably stop wearing oversized suits. She'll make some fans happier. I just like awkward men, I think. And while I don't want the glow ups to happen too soon, I guess it's inevitable. But I do hope that the drama sticks to the webtoons storyline because, like I said, it's insane, you guys, and so entertaining. Right after I watched the first episode of this drama, I was hankering to read the webtoon, and one of my friends, Frabby, who writes the Krabby for Dramas blog, she pitched the webtoon to me like this. Oh, Parma, if they follow the same story, this is gonna be so much fun. Anytime the villains try something, the heroes are like, good try, but I knew you would do that. So there's a camera there, and I've recorded your voice, and here's a press conference, and very accurate. I cannot tell you how accurate and like right on the ball this description is. And if this hasn't made you want to read the webtoon, just stick with this drama, because unless they royally screw up the writing, this cannot help but be entertaining. You can see how much hope I just put into that last sentence. Stories can always go downhill. I had such hope for the last Park Min Young drama, and I was let down. However, I'm nothing if not optimistic, stupidly so, about K-dramas and how well they can end. So that was that for this first impression-y type video, and I guess I'll see you guys next week-ish. Bye.